Coronation Street actor Joe Layton, who portrays Craig Tinker's murderer Mick Michaelis on the ITV series, made an appeal to fans following this week's disturbing episodes. After Mick Michaelis brutally killed Craig Tinker on Coronation Street, the man behind the character spoke out about how he hopes audiences respond to the storyline. Joe Layton, who takes on the role of Mick Michaelis, reached out to viewers of the long-running soap after emotionally charged and graphic scenes aired. Speaking to the Mirror, he expressed his desire for fans to understand the clear distinction between himself and his on-screen persona, stating, "I'm not Mick." Admitting he anticipated receiving backlash for Mick's brutal behavior, especially Craig's murder, Joe shared his hope that audiences can separate the character's actions from the actor himself. He emphasized that Mick's choices are part of a fictional narrative. After months of Mick terrorizing various characters, including teen Liam Connor and ultimately murdering Craig, Joe acknowledged, "I really don't know how people will react." He's obviously not a popular character. That's partly due to how he's written, and also because Mick tends to interact mostly with characters who are on their way out. It's a bit like playing Russian roulette. You never know who's going to be next. So, on top of the outrage over Craig's death, there might be some built-up frustration from earlier events. I imagine fans won't be too happy about what happened with Liam Connor either. But I really hope they understand that Mick is just a fictional role. I'm not actually him. I've no doubt he'll be disliked. Coronation Street producer Kate Brooks had fully briefed Joe on what was in store when he accepted the part last year. From the start, it was made clear that his time on the show would last only 6 months. He was also warned early on that his character would be responsible for Craig's death, which ultimately led to actor Colson Smith being written out after 14 years in the role. Joe understandably wasn't sure how Colson would respond when they first met, since both actors were aware that Mick would be responsible for Craig's death. However, Colson greeted Joe with warmth and support, something Joe genuinely appreciated. He shared, "When I got the role, I was told up front that it involved a major character's death. During a Zoom call with Kate Brooks, she revealed it would be Craig. On my first day, I walked into the green room and met Colson. He looked at me and said, 'I think you're going to kill me.' And I replied, 'I think you might be right.'" Also, I've got to give credit to Colson. Everyone at Coronation Street has been incredibly kind, but Colson stood out. He was especially generous and welcoming in a situation that could have been emotionally complicated. If I were in his position, I can imagine how difficult it would be after being part of the show for so many years. It's such a big part of his identity, so full respect to Colson. I already knew from Kate what the storyline would involve when I accepted the part. Joe revealed that Mick has passed the point of no return as his character's departure from the show approaches, while also opening up about filming this week's emotionally charged scenes. He explained, "Kate Walters, our fight coordinator, was with us during the shoot where Craig is killed." The episode was directed by Duncan Foster, who's an outstanding director, Joe continued. Much of the credit goes to him and the crew for establishing a calm, supportive environment that allowed us both the mental space we needed for such heavy material. When it comes to preparing for scenes like that, and that particular filming block was especially intense and emotional, I prefer to do all my prep in advance so I'm not stuck in the work when we're on set. I usually listen to music and try to stay relaxed. I tend to be quiet and stay in my own zone, but that's only possible thanks to the understanding from the crew, the first assistant director, and Duncan, who really respected the weight of those scenes. Every actor works differently, and great directors can pick up on what each person needs. Duncan did that for me, and I really appreciated it. Coronation Street airs on ITV1 and ITVX every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 8 p.m. Coronation Street departure confirmed as character faces murder charge. Another Coronation Street resident appears to be leaving Weatherfield after being officially charged with murder in recent episodes. This week, tragedy struck when beloved character Craig Tinker was fatally assaulted while on duty by Mick Michaelis. Craig, a police officer, was hit with a baseball bat during the attack and later succumbed to his injuries in hospital. In tonight's installment, word of Craig's tragic death spread through the community, leaving the residents of Coronation Street in shock and mourning. Craig's death deeply impacted his fellow officers, DC Kit Green and DS Lisa Swain, both of whom felt partially to blame for the tragedy. Kit's ongoing conflict with Mick led him to abandon his duties as Craig's mentor, while Lisa's suggestion that Craig should prove Kit wrong ended up pushing him into a deadly encounter with the criminal. Despite their grief, both Kit and Lisa became even more determined to track down Mick and ensure he faced justice, starting with the arrest and interrogation of his wife, Lou Michaelis. During questioning, Lou firmly claimed she had no knowledge of Mick's whereabouts, which only added to Lisa's mounting frustration. However, Mick didn't stay hidden for long. After a tense standoff with Kit, he was finally apprehended and taken into custody. After holding Bernie Winter hostage and threatening her with the same baseball bat used in the attack on Craig, the case against Mick continued to grow stronger. Mick was visibly stunned when Kit informed him that Craig had died from his injuries, something actor Joe Layton commented on. "I think he's well past the point of redemption," Joe said. "He's overwhelmed by fear and disbelief. It's a storm of emotions." Inside the interview room, DS Lisa Swain presented the mounting evidence and urged Mick to come clean, suggesting that a confession would spare everyone further pain and effort. But Mick wasn't ready to admit defeat. He denied any involvement and accused Kit of planting the evidence to frame him. With the investigation hinging on Mick's word versus Kit's, Lisa made it clear that the only way Mick could walk free was by providing a solid alibi. Thinking on his feet, Mick claimed he had spent the afternoon with his son, Brody Michaelis, unaware that his lie had just unraveled his defense. Lisa, clearly pleased, informed him that Brody had been in police custody for most of the day, completely debunking Mick's story. That was all the proof she needed to formally charge him with Craig's murder. But the question remains, will those charges hold up in court, or will Mick manage to escape justice yet again? As Mick faces the weight of his actions and the justice system begins to close in, the streets of Weatherfield are left reeling. But with secrets still buried and tensions running high, one question remains. Has the nightmare truly ended, or is this just the calm before the next storm? As the evidence mounts and Mick's fate hangs in the balance, Weatherfield holds its breath. Will justice be served, or will darkness continue to cast its shadow over Coronation Street? Find out next time. Coronation Street airs on ITV1 and ITVX every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 8 p.m.